Sudden cardiac death claims over 350,000 lives annually in the United States alone, with the majority occurring between 6 a.m. and noon. This isn't coincidence. This is predictable physiology triggered by specific morning habits that turn the first hours after waking into the deadliest time of day. Medical statistics reveal a terrifying pattern. Most heart attacks, strokes, and sudden cardiac arrests happen in the morning, with peak occurrence in the first 2 hours after waking. Research published in the American Journal of Cardiology found that heart attack risk increases by 40% in early morning hours compared to any other period of the day. Why is morning so dangerous? During 7 to 8 hours of sleep, your body enters a completely different physiological state. Blood pressure drops significantly. Heart rate slows to deep rest levels. Blood becomes thicker and more concentrated from hours of dehydration. Blood vessels naturally contract. Cortisol levels spike dramatically in the first 30 to 45 minutes after waking, a phenomenon called the Cortisol Awakening Response. When seniors wake up and immediately engage in certain habits without giving the body crucial transition time, they create what cardiologists call morning cardiovascular shock, a tremendous acute stress on the system that can trigger fatal arrhythmias, rupture arterial plaques, or cause pressure spikes high enough to cause strokes instantly. The vulnerability of seniors over 60 to morning cardiovascular events stems from age-related changes. Aging hearts have reduced capacity to compensate for sudden stress. Atherosclerotic plaques become more unstable and prone to rupture. Blood vessels lose elasticity and cannot dilate or constrict as efficiently. Baroreceptor function declines, impairing blood pressure regulation during position changes. Additionally, many seniors take medications that further complicate morning physiology. Blood pressure medications can cause orthostatic hypotension when standing abruptly. Diuretics increase dehydration overnight. Anticoagulants make blood thinner, but don't address the increased clotting tendency that occurs naturally in morning hours. The 5 morning habits discussed in this video represent those most commonly associated with sudden cardiac death in adults over 60. Each habit is explained with cardiovascular mechanisms, statistics on risk increases, and practical solutions to prevent morning cardiovascular catastrophes. These recommendations come from major cardiology organizations, including the American Heart Association, European Society of Cardiology, and decades of research on circadian cardiovascular patterns and sudden cardiac death timing. Understanding these habits empowers seniors to modify morning routines in ways that dramatically reduce cardiovascular event risk. Small changes in how you wake up, what you consume, how you shower, when you exercise, and how you manage stress can literally add years to your life. Click subscribe now. Leave a like for the algorithm. Share with anyone over 60 who needs this information. Comment which habit you recognize in your own morning routine. Now let's examine 5 morning habits that cause sudden death in seniors over 60. Habit number 5. Getting out of bed abruptly without gradual transition, causing orthostatic cardiovascular shock. The single most common and deadly morning habit seniors engage in is waking to an alarm and immediately jumping out of bed, starting activities within minutes without giving the body crucial transition time. During sleep, blood pressure drops by 10 to 20% in most people, more in some seniors taking blood pressure medications. Heart rate slows to 50 to 60 beats per minute or lower. Blood pools in central vessels and organs. Baroreceptors that regulate blood pressure during position changes become less sensitive. When you jump out of bed immediately after waking, you force your cardiovascular system to make a violent transition from horizontal rest to vertical activity in seconds. Blood must be redistributed instantly from central organs to the brain and extremities. Blood pressure must rise rapidly to prevent fainting. Heart rate must accelerate to maintain adequate cardiac output. For seniors with reduced cardiovascular reserve, this abrupt transition can overwhelm compensatory mechanisms. Orthostatic hypotension occurs, blood pressure dropping dangerously when standing, causing dizziness, fainting, and falls. Conversely, some seniors experience paradoxical hypertension, blood pressure spiking dangerously high as the body overcompensates. Research from the American Heart Association confirms that most sudden cardiac deaths occur between 6 a.m. and noon, with peak incidence in the first 2 hours after waking. Studies show heart attack risk increases 40% in early morning hours, specifically because the cardiovascular system is most vulnerable during the sleep-to-wake transition. The mechanism involves multiple factors. Blood is naturally more prone to clotting in morning hours after spending hours relatively still during sleep. Platelets are stickier and more adherent. Cortisol levels spike dramatically in the first 30 to 45 minutes after waking, creating acute inflammation that can destabilize atherosclerotic plaques. Blood pressure rises faster in morning than any other time, potentially rupturing vulnerable plaques. When abrupt standing is added to these already dangerous conditions, a perfect cardiovascular storm is created. The sudden stress can trigger fatal arrhythmias, rupture unstable plaques causing heart attack, or cause hemorrhagic stroke from uncontrolled pressure spikes. Japanese studies documented that implementing gradual morning transitions reduced morning cardiovascular events by 60% compared to those who continued jumping out of bed. The difference is so dramatic that some hospitals in Japan now teach this technique as primary prevention. What you must do starting tomorrow morning is implement the 5-minute gradual transition protocol. When your alarm rings, don't jump out of bed immediately. First, while still lying down, slowly move your ankles in circles. Gently flex and extend your legs. Move your arms slowly. This activates circulation gradually. Second, sit slowly on the edge of the bed and remain seated for at least 2 full minutes before standing. During these 2 minutes, breathe deeply and stretch gently. This gives time for your heart to increase rate gradually, for your pressure to rise in a controlled way, and for your vessels to dilate properly. Third, when finally getting up, do it slowly, holding on to something if necessary. Stand still for another minute before starting to walk. This complete 5-minute transition allows your cardiovascular system to adjust without traumatic shock. Set your alarm 10 minutes earlier than normal. These extra minutes are the best investment in longevity you can make. Use them for gentle transition instead of rushing into activities. Also avoid extremely loud alarm sounds that startle you awake. These aggressive alarms trigger adrenaline instantly, creating unnecessary stress spikes. Use alarms that increase volume gradually or gentle nature sounds. Habit number 4. Drinking coffee immediately upon waking on completely empty and severely dehydrated stomach. Millions of seniors have this automatic routine engraved in their brain. Wake up, go straight to coffee maker, and the first substance entering the body is hot, strong coffee. This seems harmless, seems normal, seems even necessary to wake up properly. But here is the brutal cardiovascular truth. Coffee on an empty stomach after overnight dehydration is a time bomb for your heart, especially after age 60. Coffee contains caffeine, which triggers adrenal glands to release cortisol and adrenaline in massive amounts. These are the same stress hormones your body releases during life-threatening emergencies. Cortisol tells your liver to dump stored glucose into the bloodstream, raises blood pressure dramatically, accelerates heart rate, and constricts blood vessels. All this happens within minutes after that first sip of morning coffee. If your body is already naturally stressed by the waking process and elevated morning cortisol, you just threw gasoline on a fire already burning dangerously. The problem becomes more serious considering severe overnight dehydration. After 7 to 8 hours sleeping without drinking water, you wake with a deficit of approximately 500 to 700 milliliters of water lost through breathing and night sweating. Your blood is literally thicker and more concentrated than at any other time of day. Imagine thick honey instead of flowing water. Thick blood flows slower, creates more resistance, and forces the heart to pump much harder. Now add coffee, which is diuretic, meaning it makes you urinate even more, losing additional fluids and dehydrating you more deeply. You just worsened dramatically an already dangerous situation. American Heart Association studies showed that morning dehydration combined with caffeine increases clot formation risk by 300% compared to being adequately hydrated. Clots are exactly what cause heart attacks and strokes by blocking vital arteries. Coffee on an empty stomach also triggers gastric acid production in massive amounts without having food in the stomach to process, causing chronic inflammation. This inflammation doesn't stay just in the stomach. It spreads systemically, affecting your entire cardiovascular system through inflammatory markers circulating in blood. Chronic inflammation is recognized today as one of the biggest risk factors for atherosclerosis, plaque formation, and sudden cardiovascular events. You are literally inflaming your body every single morning. What you must do starting tomorrow is never drink coffee right upon waking on an empty stomach. The first substance that must enter your body upon waking, before coffee, before anything else, is room temperature or slightly warm water, at least 350 to 500 milliliters, approximately 2 full glasses. This rehydrates your blood immediately, dilutes it back to normal consistency, allows your heart to work efficiently without excessive effort, and prepares your digestive system properly. Wait at least 30 minutes after drinking water before having your first coffee. This interval is absolutely crucial and non-negotiable. During these 30 minutes, eat something light too: a banana, handful of nuts, slice of whole grain bread, putting food in the stomach before caffeine arrives. This prevents uncontrolled cortisol spike, stabilizes glucose, protects stomach lining, and makes coffee much less dangerous cardiovascularly. Italian studies showed that people who drank water first and waited before coffee reduced morning blood pressure spikes by an impressive 35 points compared to those taking coffee immediately on empty stomach. The literal difference between life and death accumulated over years. If you cannot wait 30 minutes, at least reduce to 1 small cup instead of multiple large cups, and always drink abundant water first without any exception. Keep a 500 milliliter water bottle on your bedside table before sleeping tonight. When you wake tomorrow before getting out of bed, drink half that bottle while still lying down. After getting up and doing your gradual transition, drink the other half. Only after 20 to 30 minutes can you have coffee if you still want. Habit number 3, taking very hot shower immediately upon waking, causing thermal cardiovascular shock, deadliest habit. Very few people know that taking a hot shower immediately upon waking, especially a very hot shower, represents one of the deadliest morning habits seniors can engage in. It seems invigorating, seems necessary to wake up, seems the most natural thing in the world. But cardiologists know something terrifying. Sudden temperature changes, especially in morning when your cardiovascular system is still adjusting, can trigger fatal cardiac events in seconds without any prior warning. Here is what happens physiologically when entering a hot shower right upon waking. Hot water causes massive and sudden vasodilation. All your blood vessels dilate abruptly, simultaneously trying to release heat. This makes blood pressure drop dramatically and suddenly. Your heart detects this sudden pressure drop and enters panic mode, starting to pump much faster and with much more force, trying to compensate desperately. For a healthy 30-year-old heart, this might be manageable. For a 60 or 70-year-old heart with some atherosclerosis, it can be fatal. Medical statistics from Japan, where hot baths are cultural and extremely common, show something shocking. Approximately 19,000 sudden deaths happen annually in Japanese bathrooms, the majority related to thermal shocks, not falls or slips, but cardiac arrests and strokes triggered by sudden temperature changes the body couldn't compensate for adequately. This happens predominantly in people over 60 in early morning hours when the cardiovascular system is most vulnerable. The problem aggravates tremendously if alternating temperatures, starting with hot water, then cold, then hot again. Each sudden thermal change creates another cardiovascular shock, another acute stress capable of rupturing unstable atherosclerotic plaques, causing heart attack or stroke instantly. Very hot water also causes severe additional dehydration because you sweat abundantly even without realizing, losing even more fluids from an already dehydrated body. 10 minutes of hot shower can cause loss of up to 200 milliliters of fluids through imperceptible perspiration. You don't see sweat because shower water washes it immediately, but your body is dehydrating rapidly. What you must do is implement a gradual temperature protocol every morning. First, wait at least 15 to 20 minutes after waking before showering. Use this time for gentle transition from bed, drinking water, and hydrating. Second, when entering the shower, start with warm water, not hot, body temperature, or slightly warmer, approximately 35 to 37 degrees Celsius. Let your body adjust for 2 to 3 minutes at this comfortable temperature before increasing gradually. Third, keep maximum temperature moderate. Water should be comfortably warm, not scalding. If releasing lots of steam or skin gets red quickly, it's too hot and dangerous. Fourth, limit duration of morning hot shower to maximum 10 minutes total. Prolonged 20 to 30-minute baths in hot water are particularly dangerous in morning. Fifth, never alternate between very hot and very cold water in morning. These sudden changes are extremely dangerous cardiovascularly. If you like cold water for therapeutic reasons, reserve it for afternoon or evening. Never right upon waking. When finishing shower, reduce water temperature gradually in the last 30 seconds, preparing the body. Turn off shower, dry yourself still inside warm stall, and only then exit to cooler environment. Scandinavian study showed people implementing gradual morning temperature transitions reduced bath-related cardiovascular events by impressive 70% compared to those continuing abrupt changes. Habit number 2, starting intense physical exercise immediately upon waking without adequate warm-up. Many seniors proud of their discipline wake up early and go straight to running, heavy lifting, or intense exercises, thinking they're being extremely healthy and proactive. This seems admirable, seems dedication to health, seems behavior of someone committed to longevity. But cardiologists see something completely different and terrifying. These are exactly the people appearing in sudden death during morning exercise statistics. Why is exercise right upon waking so dangerous? Your body spent 7 to 8 hours in a completely different metabolic state called deep rest. Heart rate dropped to 50 to 60 beats per minute or less. Blood pressure lowered significantly. Blood concentrated, becoming more viscous. Arteries contracted naturally. Muscles entered energy conservation mode. When going straight from bed to intense exercise without gradual transition, you force the heart to accelerate from 50 beats to 140 to 160 beats in minutes, a 200% increase, creating tremendous cardiovascular stress. American College of Sports Medicine studies showed something absolutely shocking. 90% of exercise-related heart attacks happen in morning, and the majority occurs in the first 30 minutes of activity in people starting intense exercise without adequate warm-up. This isn't coincidence. This is pure predictable physiology. Your blood is more prone to clotting in morning because it spent hours still during sleep. Platelets are more adherent and sticky. If you have any unstable atherosclerotic plaque in any coronary artery, sudden stress can rupture it, causing instant massive heart attack. Every year in the United States, approximately 450,000 people die of sudden cardiac death, and a disproportionate percentage happens during morning exercise in people thinking they're perfectly healthy. The problem aggravates tremendously if you're still dehydrated, didn't drink water, and ate nothing, going to exercise on an empty stomach. Thick blood plus intense effort plus dehydration equals a perfect recipe for cardiovascular disaster. What you must do is never start intense exercise in the first 2 hours after waking. Your body needs at least 90 to 120 minutes completely awake before being ready for significant cardiovascular effort. If you absolutely must exercise right upon waking, then warm-up becomes absolutely mandatory and non-negotiable. Minimum 15 to 20 minutes progressive warm-up, starting with very light activity, slow walking, gentle dynamic stretches, smooth joint movements. Increase intensity gradually minute by minute. letting heart rate rise progressively over 15 to 20 minutes. Monitor heart rate with a watch or app. If it's rising too fast or too high in the first minutes, you're doing it wrong and creating danger. Never do maximum or near maximum exercise in morning. Reserve maximum intensities for afternoon or evening when the body is completely awake and warmed naturally. Studies showed physical performance and cardiovascular safety are significantly better between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. compared to 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. If you're over 50 or have any cardiovascular risk factors, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, family history, diabetes, overweight, seriously consider moving intense exercise to afternoon instead of morning. This can literally save your life. Habit number 1, exposing yourself to immediate psychological stress right upon waking, most fundamental and deadliest. The most fundamental morning habit amplifying all previous errors is exposing yourself immediately to psychological stress right upon waking, checking work emails, negative news, social media, or starting arguments before even leaving bed. This is the most underestimated and ignored error of all, but perhaps the deadliest long-term, creating chronic emotional stress that destroys the cardiovascular system progressively. Millions of seniors wake up and the first thing they do, still lying in bed, is grab their phones and start consuming stressful information, urgent work emails, catastrophic news, problematic messages, annoying social media posts. This seems harmless, seems just being informed or starting a productive day. But here is the brutal cardiovascular truth. In morning right upon waking, your cortisol levels are already at their natural maximum peak of the entire day. This is called the Cortisol Awakening Response and happens biologically in every human being. In the first 30 to 45 minutes after waking, cortisol might be 50 to 100% higher than any other time. This is normal and healthy when controlled. The devastating problem happens when you add artificial psychological stress to this already elevated natural cortisol peak. When reading a stressful work email, seeing terrifying news, or engaging in family arguments right upon waking, you trigger massive additional cortisol and adrenaline production on top of the already naturally high peak. This creates what endocrinologists call a cortisol storm, stress hormone levels so elevated they cause systemic acute inflammation, increase blood pressure dramatically, accelerate heart rate dangerously, increase blood sugar, make blood clot easier, and leave unstable arterial plaques more prone to rupture. Harvard Medical School studies showed that people experiencing intense psychological stress in morning have 200 to 300% higher risk of suffering heart attack in the next 2 hours compared to people who had calm mornings. Morning emotional stress is literally as dangerous as smoking a pack of cigarettes at once in terms of acute cardiovascular stress. The worst part is the damage is completely invisible and silent. You don't feel arteries inflaming, you don't feel plaques destabilizing, you don't feel your heart suffering until the day it stops suddenly without warning. What you must do starting tomorrow is implement a 60-minute morning sanctuary that is sacred and non-negotiable. The first complete hour after waking must be protected fiercely from all external stress, as if your life depended on it, because it literally does. During this critical first hour, implement these absolute rules. Rule 1, phone stays in airplane mode or another room completely. Don't check emails, news, or social media. The world won't end if you delay answering, but your heart might end if you don't respect this limit. Rule 2, avoid arguments and stressful conversations during the first hour. If there's a problem to solve, schedule the talk for afternoon or evening. Never right upon waking. Establish that mornings are a conflict-free zone. Rule 3, avoid consuming news in morning completely. News is deliberately designed to be negative and alarming because it holds attention, but negativity triggers massive cortisol. Reserve news checking for afternoon when your system is more resistant. Rule 4. Create a calm, predictable morning routine that calms the nervous system instead of activating it. Soft music, opening windows for fresh air, gentle stretches, deep breathing, brief meditation, silent gratitude. Studies showed that just 5 minutes of conscious deep breathing in morning reduces cortisol by 25% and blood pressure by 10 points, an effect comparable to medication without side effects. Data from cultures worldwide show a fascinating pattern. Societies with calm, prolonged morning rituals, Japanese tea ceremony, long Mediterranean breakfast, Indian spiritual practices, have significantly lower rates of sudden cardiac death compared to cultures where people jump from bed straight to stress. Morning should be the calmest period of the day, not the most chaotic and stressful. If you wake already in panic emergency mode, you're creating cumulative cardiovascular damage that will eventually manifest as sudden death. These 5 morning habits cause sudden death in seniors over 60. Getting out of bed abruptly without gradual transition, drinking coffee immediately on empty dehydrated stomach, taking very hot shower immediately upon waking, starting intense exercise without adequate warm-up, and exposing yourself to immediate psychological stress. The pattern connecting these habits is that they all create acute cardiovascular stress during the most vulnerable time of day, when your system is transitioning from deep rest to active wakefulness. Small modifications to each habit dramatically reduce sudden cardiac death risk. Which habit do you recognize in your morning routine? Comment below. Share with seniors who need this information. Subscribe for more cardiovascular safety content. Thank you for watching this video about morning habits that cause sudden death in seniors. Implement these changes starting tomorrow morning to protect your cardiovascular health.